Hi, I want to thank you for joining me today. My name is John Gallagher. We're going to focus the next 20, 30 minutes, however long, depending on questions, really focused on a topic that has been heating up over the last few years. Actually, ever since I think it was in the 1970s, a Coke machine at Carnegie Mellon University was connected to the internet, the first IoT device connected into a network system. Ever since then, security's been a concern. Security's been an issue, and to address not only our strategy as a company at Viakoo, but also to help our customers, the community in general, we engaged in some interesting research, and that's really the topic I'll focus on today. Before we jump into the slides, the other thing I'd like to just recommend or suggest as part of the webinar experience, feel free to ask questions as they come up. I'll address them towards the end of the webinar. The other thing I'd like to encourage you to do is obviously visit viakoo.com. In addition to the survey data that we're about to go through, we've got a lot of information and detailed guidance that can help. We have white papers, ebooks, infographics, a lot of good content. The other thing I'd also push or recommend is the Viakoo blog. We update it very regularly, and it really, I think over time, to me, gives a sense as to how the state of IoT security has evolved and brings us to some of the data and experience that we will go through today. So let me start with the slide deck and kind of get into the heart of things. If you haven't already downloaded it, I'd encourage you go to viakoo.com 2024 IoT Security Crisis. Download your own copy of this. This is a really good research piece, and as VP of Viakoo Labs, I'm proud of what our team was able to accomplish with this. We commissioned research with an external agency, so it was not conducted by Viakoo. It was conducted by a third-party professional survey research company. We went out to a variety of IT leaders. We ended up with over 150 survey responses, all of them in North America. And it was all companies that were greater than 1,000 employees. So, of course, IoT security might change depending on the size of the environment or type of environment. But, we think that by addressing those specific types of IT leaders, we're able to get a good snapshot as to where the general state of IoT security is. This was all conducted in Q4, primarily October and November in 2023. And we'll be updating this annually, and I expect to see, hopefully, things change for the better as time goes on. Now, the reason Viakoo is doing this is we're focused as a company on delivering outcomes to improve security, improve the risk profile for organizations, and boost their security posture overall. We do it through a variety of products, solutions. They're all part of what we call the Viakoo Action Platform, a unique IoT security platform. Each of the components within the platform can be used individually, or they can be used together as a whole. And I'll go through a flow towards the end, showing how our products are used. But really, some of the key things that we do to help reduce the attack surface is by focusing on the applications and the devices connected to them. We'll get into why that is and why that's actually a really critical part of addressing IoT security. We do cyber hygiene or remediation functions. We do software patches. We do certificate management, password rotations, and so forth. And again, all done in the context of how the application and devices work together. And as well, we assist organizations with compliance. At the end, there's what we call remediation and repatriation. The repatriation is making sure that your organization is able to pass audits, has all the right documentation, and that you've brought the entire workflow back to full working order, fully documented. So those outcomes that Viakoo offers really assist directly in achieving your goals with IoT security and IoT security in a broad sense. And, what we found in the survey, and this is just, to me, what was really the most critical or most impactful result from the survey. And again, I'd encourage you download it. You might find some other things that stand out to you. And we'll go through some of the other data that we gathered. But, when it comes right down to it, this might state the obvious, but it states it very clearly. It's that IoT security is the top of mind concern for many of these IT leaders. 100% of them, everyone has IoT devices. You have printers, you have routers, you have IP cameras, you have access control systems, you have wireless access points. You've got a variety of different devices operating seamlessly and invisibly often in your environment. And those internet connected devices are, of course, vulnerable, and they're a path for network access to threat actors. So the fact that 100% of organizations acknowledge the existence and them having these devices, but only 50% of them, or 50% of them believing that IoT security is their weakest link, it's the weakest part of their overall security. Security for IoT is moving to the front of the line. We also found in the survey that security spending is up a little bit. Security spending for IoT is up a lot. And I think the numbers there are roughly about 50% year over year growth in IoT security spending. So it's clear that not only is there a perception that IoT security is weak, there's action that people intend to take. So that's really, I think, encouraging news going forward into 2024, and a good thing that we'll be looking for as we get into towards the end of the year and so forth. Sorry for the scale issue here. I think there was a rendering issue as we brought this in. I'll just simply state, whether it's severity, scale, cost, or impact, what we've seen in the past year is that all of these functions are affected and impacted by IoT security. We've had Colonial Pipeline, we've had chemical supplies changed, we've had St. Jude cardiac devices hacked, Nortec access control devices hacked. So IoT breaches and vulnerabilities are present, and they're being exploited. That's pretty clear. The scale of it, right? There's over 17 billion IoT devices, and growing at a rapid rate. There's over 250 million IoT cyber attacks per month. 22% of organizations we found in the survey have had a serious or business disrupting cyber breach. And when it comes right down to it, having the costs associated with these breaches, they're continuing to grow. Just a few months ago, MGM had to announce over $100 million loss due to the IoT cyber breaches that they had, and the fact, kudos to them, they did not pay the ransomware. They actually took the right action and rebuilt their systems, brought everything back online in a secure fashion. But having prevented those attacks at the beginning would have obviously saved a lot of money and reputational damage that MGM suffered from that. And of course, the impact that I think is most important here is that studies have found, and our research has found, IoT is the biggest contributor to attack surface growth right now, given the scale of these devices and how they're managed outside of IT. But this is the key part. 55% of IoT cyber attacks are preventable. And that's really what I'll focus on as we go through the rest of the presentation here. Because that's really, I think, what the message for 2024 is security, IoT security is becoming a crisis. The data is very clear, and the ability to spend and address this is also desired. So what's the direction? What's the right way to go? We'll spend some time on that. A few other things that the survey found. One is, to me, not a surprise given what we've just talked about. The survey showed a tremendous lack of confidence amongst IT leaders in being able to address IoT security issues. Everyone, almost 95%, have an explicit IoT security plan, but only 51% of them feel confident in those efforts. 55% of IoT cyber incidents could have been prevented with better security measures. And probably the most critical part here, 22% of companies have experienced an IoT cyber incident in the last 12 months that was either serious or threatened their business operations, disrupting their business. So if business continuity and business disruption is something your organization is willing to spend on, IoT security spending is clearly front of the line there. The other thing the survey found is not just a lack of confidence, but also regrets on some of the technology decisions that they've made. Broadly, we found that organizations, even though they've been deploying network-based asset discovery, they're not getting to remediation. And without remediation, the attack surface is vulnerable. It's an attack surface. So, 71%, not surprising at all, 71% wish they had deployed IoT discovery differently so that they would get to remediation faster. 65% of companies that have already deployed agentless network-based asset discovery feel that they're not successful with those efforts. And we'll get into some of why that is. I mean, broadly speaking, network-based discovery gets you into the ballpark, but it doesn't get you into your seat. Or there's many other metaphors. Sorry if that was a poor one. The other thing which I'll just say is there's a context issue. There's not enough information and it's not actionable enough. That's been an issue. That's one that Viakoo is out here to solve. But 60% of IT leaders found that they didn't have enough information on the application context of IoT cyber threats to address them properly. So what we're finding is that, again, problem is acknowledged, desire to solve it is there, budget and spending is getting in place to do it. But what do you do? What is the technology direction? Because up till this point, the solutions deployed have not quite gotten there. So that's where, let me spend a couple minutes describing from our perspective one of the missing pieces in IoT security and how IoT security efforts really aren't going to be successful without this critical piece being added. So let's just start by looking at what is an IoT system and how does it live and where does it reside. It almost always, and this has been a best practice for a long time, IoT and OT devices and ICS as well should always be on segmented or firewalled off networks. They should not be on the main corporate network. Obviously, the ability of these devices to be infected and to allow lateral movement within the organization is significant. So keeping them and maintaining them on separate segmented or hidden networks is really critical from a safety perspective. But at the same time, those hidden segments aren't easily observed or aren't easily made visible. And the situation, as you see here, is it's not just the devices that are on those hidden networks or hidden segments. It's the devices and the applications that control them. And that's really fundamental. It's the critical key concept when it comes to IoT security. It's that it's not about the devices. Sure, the devices themselves are IoT, but it's the devices and the applications together. That's what's really critical to address when it comes to securing these systems. And at Viakoo, we've been referring to this for quite some time as tightly coupled IoT environments. And that's really the main, what you see in the enterprise when it comes to IoT. It's not what you'd see on the left, which is loosely coupled, right? That might be a Nest thermostat on the wall. It might be a Fitbit on your arm. Those things don't typically work with one another, and the applications that control them are essentially cloud-based and a one-to-one connection. On the right-hand side, though, is what you find in the enterprise, which is that it's a tightly coupled environment of applications and multiple devices working together as a team to enact a business outcome. And so that tightly coupled environment has to be handled specially when it comes to remediation, has to be handled especially when it comes to discovery, and the data that you need to extract from it has to be both combined device data and application data in order to have all you need to understand the context of securing those systems. And so at Viakoo, we really focus on the device itself, of course, through discovery, but also the application context as part of the discovery process, the configuration data, the performance metrics. Is the device operating? Really detailed information. And that's something that current solutions around network discovery don't deliver. Network-based discovery essentially is a inference-based approach where you're inferring the device's existence. We do a direct query that actually directly touches or tickles the device, gets its data, and therefore it's highly accurate. And we do this across all types of IoT and OT systems within the enterprise, right? So as you see here, some examples. But again, the common nature you'll see in every single one of these is a combination of hardware and software together, the application and the devices, and the goal of them together to make a business outcome happen. And there's no question that these devices and systems are being attacked and are kind of low-hanging fruit. And we could go through, I mean, I think we've got other webinars available on our website and in other materials, but just briefly, right, this is the low-hanging fruit because often these devices and applications are managed fully outside of IT, right? IT might provision a network or provision storage or some capabilities, but the actual management and day-to-day operations and maintenance are under the line of business's command. And so there might be a varying skill set or varying degree of control there. There's also the ability of, I'll say, organizations to reach these devices. I mean, think of any of these actually that are shown here. I'll pick video cameras. They hang outside of walls. They're spread across a parking lot. They're in multiple sites in multiple locations throughout your organization. They're the most scaled out IoT objects that exist. Access control systems, very similarly. Building or temperature control, access pads, smoke detectors. All of these types of systems have that common issue, which is that they're scaled out, they're on segmented hidden networks, they're not managed in the IT frameworks, and also IT tools, IT solutions used for security don't work for IoT. IoT, by its nature, uses unique operating systems, unique protocols, and is custom built for that business purpose. Therefore, agents that typically are used with IT security solutions for discovery, threat assessment, etc., simply don't work. You can't put software onto these devices. There's no landing space for them. There's no place to put them. It's not like a Windows or a Linux operating system in a pure sense. These are modified operating systems that do not allow other software to be loaded onto them. So the IT solutions that exist don't work here. That's why, again, organizations need to have, as many do, as we mentioned at the beginning, they have an IT security solution, and they also have a separate IoT security solution. That's partly because of the differences I just went through. So as we look at the overall, ecosystem and how things happen, at Viakoo, we believe IoT security has unique capabilities and does integrate with an ecosystem. There's API connections, there's a variety of things. And the ecosystem stitching together, of course, is needed because together that's what's needed to address the overall solution. So whether it's connecting into a CMDB, working alongside a network access control mechanism for mitigation, working very closely and coordinating and passing data with asset discovery and threat assessment solutions, Viakoo's ensured that everything that we do works within the context of an overall security ecosystem. But we add new and unique data to it. A good example, actually, is what we do around lifecycle and vulnerability management. We pick up, for every device that's within our environment, we pick up data from the manufacturer, including end of life, end of support, other information of that nature that's very useful for establishing the context of what's happening. For example, you might have a procurement team that you could work with to make sure that any device headed towards end of life already has a replacement strategy and has security checks and supply chain checks around security in place for the vendors you might consider. That's just one small example of how this context data can be used in terms of improving that. As well, we go out because we know the devices, we know their firmware levels, we know all the gory details about them. A lot deeper knowledge than, say, a network-based discovery solution would strictly offer. We're able to look at the CVE scores. How many devices have severity scores above 9? We can tell you that very quickly with reporting. We can tell you how many CVEs are present within the device. Again, giving you a path as to which ones to go after first and how to address their security. And as I've mentioned, right, we work alongside of many of these solutions, and we believe that there's a complementary nature to them, right? We have customers who today can use Viakoo to go all the way through, and I'll show the optimized flow. You can go all the way through from beginning through discovery, through threat assessment, into remediation, and into repatriation. That's an optimized flow through Viakoo strictly. But many of our customers have made existing investments, and we want them to be successful with those existing investments in network-based discovery. So that's why we've established very deep integration with some of the leaders in this space. And what we do with application-based discovery, we like to think of, network-based, it's great to give you, again, get you into the ballpark. You've got a mile-wide understanding of what's going on, but it's really about an inch deep. Viakoo augments that by taking a mile deep approach on every device and application system that we're finding and seeing. So we're really infusing that network-based discovery with detailed context and detailed high accuracy data. It's not based on inference, it's based on direct query. And so that allows you to really, again, address with high accuracy the devices within your system, know what they're doing, know how to address and remediate them. And again, we've managed this with many vendors. We have a very easy data interchange capability. We're very proud with partners like Armis, Forescout, Nozomi, and others. Clarity, Silera, etc. We've been able to do a nice bidirectional sync so that we become a data source into those asset discovery platforms. Perfect solution. I mean, many of our customers want tool consolidation. And so we're trying to make sure that if that's your goal, you can simply use Viakoo as a data source into those existing platforms. So not needing to fire up multiple consoles, we're trying to make sure that you're able to be efficient and productive with your chosen tool set. And so we've got a lot of good things going on with our partnerships. Those will continue going forward and making mutual customers successful in that way. Let me just stop for a second or shift a little bit and discuss how we go about this, right? I've mentioned that we're an agentless approach, right? Because IoT systems require an agentless architecture to do their functions. So that's exactly what we have. We have what we call actors, small pieces of software that go into the network, typically onto an application server or controller or an IoT gateway. Very flexible placement and very easy deployment. We're software only, so there's no sensors, there's no sensor placement. Cost of deployment is tiny. And so once we're deployed into the environment, our system automatically begins sending and triggering data so that there's no manual data entry. We collect all of the operational data and maintain that in a digital twin format. So we can do historical analysis, look at changes over time, and be able to use it for reporting for audit and compliance purposes. We apply the data then into a reasoning engine that analyzes and assesses various conditions going on. Through that, we're able to trigger through our user interface alerts, inventory reports, compliance checks. We're able to implement policy in the form of updating passwords, rotating certificates, applying new software patches. And so all of that is then sent downstream into the system using the device's natural interfaces and capabilities to then perform the actions within the device. We've done this for more than 2 billion hours of production usage, so it's a very well-proven platform. We have a huge database of learning objects for AI, and we have active AI efforts underway to be able to ensure that as time goes on, the speed of threats generated from AI can be matched by the speed of remediation and the speed of response to them. So as I mentioned, right, there's really an optimized flow. If you're starting fresh, right, or wanting to just simply get to remediation as quickly as possible, that's what we've created here, right? Obviously, it starts with your realization that you've got an issue. As our survey and some of the data we've presented here today shows, most organizations already have that realization. So then what do they need to do? We think this flow is really optimal, right? Discover. We have our application-based discovery, which finds all of the IoT applications and devices, their port assignments, port relationships. We're giving you a dictionary of the IoT system environment from both a network perspective and an application data flow perspective. We're then doing assessment, right? We're tying into the National Vulnerability Database. We're looking at CVE severity scores, and so forth. We give you the ability to do some Minor, I'll say, are lightweight mitigation in the form of port blocking, port resets, device resets, and so forth. Then into remediation, right? Our core strength, fully automated, very high speed ability to update firmware enterprise-wide, rotate passwords, manage certificates. And so that remediation capability then is finally, matched with documentation and the ability to repatriate things. In all these cases, if you have other solutions and tools, again, our API connections and other connectors into third-party systems gives you the ability to use. We call it the Viakoo Marketplace. And so in the Viakoo Marketplace, I'd have to go look at our website and check, but I think we've got about 70 plus integrations today on there and continuing to grow. New devices, new manufacturers, new applications, very easy for us to onboard. So again, whether your chosen flow is already in existence and you want to augment it through some of the capabilities we've talked about today, easy to do. Or if you're just starting out fresh and want to take a case study within your own company and see through from a site or a departmental perspective, can you go through this? Very easy for us to set up and do. And some of the core technology advantages that we have the ability to reach the last mile. That's very difficult with IoT systems because, again, they're on segmented and hidden networks. There's definitely control issues. So we've managed an architecture, patented capabilities to be able to reach through to that last mile. We don't have hardware-based or hardware sensors or any cost of deployment. We're software only, very easy to scale in a massive way across an enterprise with that approach. We never put software on IoT devices. We're a fully agentless solution. And we've got proven capabilities to scale to millions of devices, as shown even with the 2 billion hours of production usage that we've already achieved. And we've done this across virtually every vertical that's out there. We don't think that IoT security has a vertical nature to it. Everyone suffers these issues. Everyone suffers maybe in different ways, but everyone has an IoT security issue. And it's borne out by the fact that our customer base includes virtually every vertical and major organizations within each of them. So if you're in a unique situation, chances are we've already come across some similar cases and can help you even in the corner case type situations of how you're deployed or what your specific requirements are. So just to summarize and close up here, I think, what we found and our survey bears out, IoT application security is clearly a missing piece when it comes to people's success in bringing together an overall flow. The reports that we found that the people aren't feeling successful with their current technology stack, clearly that's the case. There's a missing piece, and that missing piece is application-based discovery. Our system, our environment, our customers require fast, right? The scale of IoT and the ability to shrink the attack surface quickly is critical, right? I mean, there's the concept, and it's easy to visualize the window of vulnerability, right? How many systems are infected, and for how long are they infected before remediation? With IoT, that can be vast and giant, right? So fast is critically important. Compliance driven, right? Making sure that we have policies in place that can be actioned on, and you can show that there's an auditable approach to it. All of these capabilities are really required for IoT security to be successful, and Viakoo offers all of that, and we do it again in conjunction with some of our partners and the ability to bring in third-party solutions and tools. So with that, I want to just thank everyone for time and attention. I think we've covered a lot of ground in a short period of time. If I can check here, I'm going to see if there's any questions. Just a couple of really quick ones. One is, how can I get a demo? I'd encourage you to go to viakoo.com. Up in the upper right corner of our website is a button that says request a demo. One of our systems engineers is happy to jump on a Zoom give you a quick demo, and at least start the dialogue that way. The other thing I'd really encourage you to do is check us out via some of the materials and media that we have, our blog, other website resources, and so forth. We make it very easy to, I think, get a sense as to how IoT security should be done, and some of the unique aspects of IoT security that are different from IT. The other thing which I'll just say is where is Viakoo physically located? Viakoo is based in North America. All of our technology development is onshore here in the US. We have a distributed team, and therefore, regardless of where your physical location is, we have people who can support you and guide you. We're present at a variety of trade events and trade shows this year. If you are a Gartner client, for example, I would encourage you to try to meet up with me at the Gartner Security and Risk Summit coming up in June. I'd also encourage you to reach out to some of the Gartner analysts that we work with and who could guide you as well. I think that's really a part of the market that many organizations really could benefit from accessing. So if you're currently a Gartner client, I'd encourage you to reach out to them, get some of their views. They've got some really good analysts around cyber physical security, or CPS, and I'd encourage you to check them out. But again, we're present at almost most major industry events. We're around, and obviously go through the website, reach out. We're happy to talk and dialogue. So with that, I'm going to conclude today's webinar. I'd like to encourage you, if you have any other questions or anything that we can follow up on, please reach out to me directly. John Gallagher at Viakoo.com, John.Gallagher at Viakoo.com, or reach out to me on LinkedIn. Happy to start a dialogue there. So again, I want to thank everyone for your time and attention today, and best of luck with your IoT security issues. And I hope the research that we did can help guide and inform those efforts for you. Thanks again.